Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. You don't have to be an artist to get something from this channel, but you do have to love fountain pens.
Compare that with a modern fountain pen, compact, practical, and almost foolproof.
Lately, I've been doing a series of reviews of pocket pens. I've already done one of the Hong Dian M2, and I've done one of the Kaweco Lilliput. This is the Kaweco Super, which I just did. And I thought it would be nice to finish up with a review of the Hong Dian M1, which you see in the bottom here. Similarly priced, under $20 on Amazon, a little cheaper if you get it on eBay. I really liked the M2. I think it's very good value, and I think it's true too of the M1. It's really a matter of style, taste. They're very similar in concept, both made out of metal. And certainly, I think what they're competing with is the Kaweco Sport. Particularly if you think of the plastic version of the Sport. I have it in the banana color, which is really pretty, kind of translucent. And that goes for around $20. It depends. You can get some of the special editions of the Sport in plastic, and it can be more expensive. However, you notice it doesn't come with a clip, and it doesn't come with a converter. That is extra, while the M1 and the M2 both come with clips and converters. The clip is built in on the M1 and the M2. With the Super, it's an addition that you sort of clip it onto the pen. So that makes it a little bit more expensive. They're similar in size. You can see they're around 4 inches when they're closed. And obviously the Sport is going to be way less when it's in plastic. And when you post these pens, and they post extremely securely, obviously, because that makes them full size. So you really have to use them posted, unless you have little tiny hands. They are also similarly sized, and they become around 5 inches long, maybe a little longer than that. And so some of this is a matter of taste, and also the material. The M1 is made out of aluminum, this kind of brushed aluminum. It comes in some different colors, kind of a lilac color, I believe, and I think there's a light green color version. I got the silver version. And they have similar size nibs. Kaweco's nib, I think it's called the 060. I think it's made by Bach. Now, I really like the steel version of the Kaweco, the versions that come in metal. This is the steel version. You can see it with the clip that is an add-on that you have to buy. And once you get to steel, which is much heavier material than the aluminum that the M1 is made out of, then the pen gets to be much more expensive. It's in the realm of, it could be $70, $80. And once you've got the clip and the converter, which are also extra, then it gets to be expensive. It also is much heavier pen. So, and it's also a matter of aesthetics. You can't beat, I think, how beautiful the classic Kaweco shape is with its faceted cap, and it's really a classic. And I think particularly when it's in a metal version, it's really quite beautiful, while the sort of torpedo shape of the M1 is not as attractive. I am a huge fan of the brass version of the Kaweco pen. I was able to get this for around $50, and I love the way the brass tarnishes over time. It has, it sort of takes on the wear of the user, and that's almost like a kind of way in which you customize it. It is a very heavy pen, and so I'm kind of ambivalent about using it for a long period of time, but I like it so much. I like the way it looks and feels. Has a kind of an object. I think it's very, very beautiful. So actually, what do these pens weigh? Here you see the M1, and it comes in around 21 grams. It does have the converter inside it, but it's not inked. This is the Sport. It doesn't have a converter in it, and it's coming to about 10 grams. I would say with a cartridge, you're talking about 11, 12 grams, so it's very light. I feel like it's almost too light as a pen. And here we have the aluminum, excuse me, not the aluminum, but the steel version of the Kaweco, and it comes in at almost 46 grams. The brass version with the clip comes in at over 48 grams. So these are really heavy pens. So you have to keep that in mind. And what do you prefer? I think the M1 and the M2 come in really at the sweet spot in the 20s. I think that's a good place for a pen to be. So that's another potential advantage here. Here is the M2, and you see that it's a little heavier. It's around 23, 24 grams, almost 24 grams. Yeah, to the 21 grams. And all this depends on having ink in it, et cetera, et cetera. But that they really have the sweet spot there, I think, in the middle. So here's the other great thing about both the M1 and the M2 is the converter. They've really figured out a converter that's really like a traditional converter in the pen versus the kind of converter that you can buy extra from Kaweco. So this works as like a standard Schmidt type of converter, and I think it holds a little bit more ink than the Kaweco, and it fits in perfectly. This is the hard-to-use Kaweco converter. It kind of screws in it, and it's a kind of plunger version, and it's a little bit hard to get it to work. You can see I'm having trouble sort of unscrewing it, and then once it works, it's got a little pump action, and it's extremely awkward, I think, to use that with the pen. So I think this is a much better version, but unfortunately, you can't use that converter that comes with the M1 and M2 in a Kaweco. That would be great, but it's custom for the Hong Dian. And of course, you can always use cartridges. The other advantage of the plastic Kaweco is you can eyedropper it. So that some people may find that to be an advantage, and then it holds quite a lot of ink. I think though you certainly would need to use some silicone grease or an O-ring, and really to be secure so that the ink doesn't leak out. But I think there are YouTube videos on how to do that. I'm not a fan of using eyedroppering pens, so I'm not an expert on that, but I'm sure you could figure out how to do that. Now, one sweet thing about the M1 is it has very subtly engraved, I guess with laser engraving, the name of the pen, and then this cute little bird. It's hard to see that on the side, and that's kind of charming. The whole pen has a kind of charm to it, and it's like a Captain Nemo submarine. I prefer the M2 in terms of the way it looks, and I think the M2 is more trying to look like a Kaweco. It doesn't do the the polygon cap, but it has a more industrial look to it. And I also really like the contrast between the black clip, and in this case it's a dark green, but you can also, I believe this comes in different colors too. I think you can get it in silver. And it has a really nice finial to it, which I like too. They're both functionally very, very similar. They write the same. Unfortunately, about Hong Dian, at least in these models, they seem to only come in extra fine and fine. The fine is closer to a medium, but I wish it came in a broad, and that's an advantage of the Kaweco, because that certainly comes in broad, and you can also get it in a stub. So I personally like broad nibs, and that's a disadvantage of these pens. So I'm going to do a writing sample, and then I did a beautiful, well, I think it's beautiful drawing watercolor of daffodils. So how does it write? Okay. So this is the Hong Dian M2. It's fine. This is rodeo paper. And this is diamine ox blood. And there is absolutely no variation. I would say that it writes okay. It's a little bit of a feedback. I wouldn't say exactly scratchy, but it's not super smooth either. It is pretty wet. Okay. People like this. Oh, wasn't good, but it does write in reverse, and it's a bit thinner. Oh, that's pretty good. I don't think it's that much different quality from the Kaweco nib. Maybe the Kaweco nib is a little, equivalent is a little smoother. As always, if you found this video useful, please do subscribe.